Hey SmartPak fans, I'm SmartPaker Dan. She's Dr. Lydia Gray, SmartPak staff veterinarian and medical director, and we're here to answer horse health questions asked and voted on by you. And this is actually the beginning of the 5th year of Ask the Vet.
Things to throw
I know, we should have party poppers or something.
Yeah,
we missed the boat on that. Next time. But you started this back in February of 2016. This
with
is
Sarah, right?
Crazy.
Yeah.
This is your 48th video, monthly video. Feels like it, right?
No, it feels like yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. But we do record these a month ahead, so we did miss the January episode because of the holidays. But I mean, I had time off, but you were still busy working.
I did, yeah.
So you actually did a video with Dr. Frank Andrews. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what that was?
Sure. So Dr. Andrews and I were both at AAEP in Denver, and we did a video that explained the research he did on our turmeric and devil's claw ingredients in some of our supplements. So he explained the research, which is awesome because you see it on the white paper and you're like, what now? But then he walked us through it, so it's really good, and I encourage everyone to go watch it.
And it was kind of relating to your horse's stomach health with that. So definitely check that out. We'll put a link in the description for you guys to check that video, or you can just click on the thing that popped up over Lydia's head. So with that being said, just a reminder, if you ask a question in one of our videos going forward and it gets voted into our top 5, get answered in one of these videos, you win a SmartPak gift card. So definitely make sure to ask questions going forward. And meanwhile, we'll get on to the questions for this month. So question number 1 was submitted by Matt on the SmartPak forum at smartpak.com/askthevetquestions. And Matt wants to know, I compete often, which requires my horse to stable at a showground facility for several days. What is your recommendation on preparing a stall in terms of sanitizing before you allow your horse to enter the stall? I don't want to use harsh chemicals that may irritate the respiratory system. And we did have a YouTube community comment on this as well from Not Your Average Pony Lover, which is a great name, by the way. The horse show one, definitely, since horse show season is coming up in a month. You must be in warmer weather than we are.
This question I understand because I show horses and I take them to places and I have an eye for, just, a safe place I want to be in. Especially now with the whole coronavirus thing. Yeah, so with horses that are commingling at events, it is respiratory illnesses that are the primary concern because of the aerosolization of them, the airborne droplets, you cough or sneeze, and that's how it's passed, and even nose-to-nose contact. And even horse, so that's horse-to-horse contact, there's horse-to-human contact. So one thing you run into, it shows, is if you touch someone else's horse and then you go touch your horse, you are a fomite, right? You've carried the germs from one to the other.
And I am guilty of that. If I see a cute horse, I am.
But even think of this, it could be horse to other animals. If there are dogs on the facility, where they're running, they could run from an infection and give it to something else. So not to be even more scary.
I was like, you did scare us a little bit more here.
Here's the good news. Well, that's the eye that I look at showgrounds with. Here's the good news. If you pick your facilities well, then you might not have to deal with the stall cleaning, because here's the steps in real, like at a facility, a hospital, let's say, that's cleaning and sanitizing, because you can't sterilize stalls, the surfaces are too porous. They will remove all of the organic material. So any bedding, any food, any hay left over, manure, certainly soil bedding. And then they will use soap and water or detergent to clean the surfaces. So you use soap, you rinse, then you let it dry.
Okay.
Air dry.
Yep.
Okay. Sometimes they'll use a blower. Then you apply your...
This is what the show facility is doing.
Like a hospital.
Oh, hospital,
like a
okay.
hospital.
You said hay, that's why I got it.
Well, but they feed horses at hospitals too. So then after the washing and the rinsing and the air drying, then they sanitize. And you have to allow it to dry. Now, that's not very practical at a horse show facility.
No.
I don't want to guarantee you, but most places are not doing that. And when you come in with your horse and your trailer, you don't have time to do that.
Not at all.
No. The good news is you might not have to do all that. Obviously, you want to have the stall be cleaned of material, so there shouldn't be anything left over from another horse in there. If there is, it needs to be removed.
Okay.
Hopefully the facility will have done that, so you have a clean stall. If you want to wash the walls with even maybe just the front of the door with soap and water and rinse and let dry. You can, because this is a previous one we did, just that removes 90% of the bacteria and viruses that are there. And then your disinfectants or sanitizing agents remove another 6 or 7%.
Wow, so you're at 97%.
Yeah, well, but if you just use soap, you're at 90,
Yeah.
and that's pretty good. That's
Yeah.
only 10% left of bugs, so that's pretty good. I did find, so what we're talking about is biosecurity. I did find a really, really good resource, and we'll throw this up. It's called Biosecurity Toolkit for Equine Events. I mean, how perfect is that?
Sounds like
And
exactly what we need.
It's exactly, and it's by the California Department of Food and Agriculture. That's if you want to read more about it and learn how it looks from a vet's eye and what all you can do. I don't think that's necessary. This article I found said, check the show venue. Also, before you go to Equine Disease Communication Center, and they'll tell you where there are outbreaks in the country.
Oh.
If there's an outbreak in that area, don't go. Okay, so that's your first tip. Monitor your horse, and that means taking his temperature every day while you're there. Taking a temperature, just like the coronavirus, is the first sign that something is going awry.
And with the horse temperature, though, it's always good to know what your horse's temperature is prior.
Correct.
Because some horses run
Hot or cold
Yeah.
or something, yeah. And then we already talked about don't allow nose-to-nose contact. Other things you can do, use only your own equipment. So I have back here a muck bucket. Now imagine you forgot yours. And you ask the person stabling next to you, hey, can I use your muck bucket? So this has been inside their stall, sitting on God knows what. And then you bring it in your stall and sit it down. You've just transferred whatever is in that stall to your horse's stall now. So bring and use your own equipment. Muck buckets, little buckets, all feed and water buckets, manure forks, halters, lead ropes, brushes. Don't share equipment.
Your own thermometer.
My pet peeve, and you see it says it right there.
Yes, it does.
I see this all the time, and it just drives me crazy. At horse shows, there'll be a water spigot, and there'll be a hose on it, and everyone uses from that hose. And don't they put the hose in the bucket?
Yes.
Don't do that.
Okay, I am guilty of that, but I will stop now.
Oh my God! Someone did that with my horse. They were helping me get my horse set up, and they did that, and I think I screamed at them. We are no longer friends. That didn't go over well, but. Either go take your buckets and fill them up without, like, unscrew the hose and do that directly, or just don't put the hose in it. Because otherwise, if you put the hose in the water, you're putting in your horse's drinking bucket the entire aisle of horse germs. I mean, pet peeve.
Yeah, definitely. Well, now it'll be one of mine as well.
I asked for a corner stall. You could put a tack stall between you and the next horse. I mean,
Oh, that's a good idea.
It's a lot more practical than soap and water and rinse and dry and sand. That's not very practical.
So if you are going to, soap and water will take care of 90% of it, but then there's all these other little things you can do to just make sure
that are actually have better outcomes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So little steps.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that helps you, and hopefully your show season will go very well. So on to question number 2, submitted by Andrea on the SmartPak form. And Andrea wants to know, what is the most important helpful thing to keep your horse healthy, other than the obvious food, water, shelter? Example, picking hooves, vaccinations, deworming, or grooming.
So, do you have any thoughts on this?
Ooh, you're gonna put me on the spot for it? Okay, so I would say turnout, and I would say supplements.
Surprise!
Surprise.
We had a saying in vet school, and I don't know if it was just our vet school or every vet school, because I've heard lots of vets say this, that more is missed for not looking than for not knowing.
Ooh.
So my one word answer for this is observation.
Okay.
And it's know your horse and look at him every day. And that means not only look at him, palpate the legs. If you know his temperature, pulse, and respiration, and take it. If your horse is not acting right, like you know, this is my horse's schedule, this is what he does every day, and when he's not doing that, then he's ADR.
It was a...
Ain't doing right. That's a real thing. We learned that in vet school, ain't doing right. Take his temperature. So my barn owner will call me, and there'll be either one of my horses or her horses that is ADR. and I'll say, what's his temperature?
Ah.
That's the first thing I do.
Yeah.
But it all comes from knowing normal and looking and observing. So keeping that journal, I mean, I've probably said that on this series, what, 100 times?
Maybe a few times.
Yeah. But know your horse's behaviors and habits and practices. Like, you know, I don't panic when I see Newman. She feeds him his dinner, and he looks at it, and then he goes and eats his hay. For a lot of people, they'd be like, oh, he's colicking. No, he waits an hour.
What's his appetizer first before he has the main meal?
But he looks at it, and then he eats his hay, so that's okay. I have a young horse now. I did not realize how much they sleep, like lay down and sleep. And I came out one day, and he was down. And oh my God, and I couldn't get him up. And I did a whole exam on the ground, and finally I put a halter on him, and I said, stand up. He goes, okay. And then he shook off, and he went, and he goes, you got anything to eat? He's totally fine, but you have to know your horse, and then you have to observe.
Yeah, because to your point, we have a mare at our barn who every morning is laying down, eats her hay laying down, and to most would look like terrifying, but it's every day. That's what she does. It's, you know, that's part of her normal. So another horse.
But now, if she was laying down and not eating her hay, or didn't get up, or did something else, you would know there's something wrong, and you would look into it then.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think just looking at your horse every single day. Take the blanket off if it's winter. Pick the feet. Look at them.
Observation. That's a good tip. I like that.
Thank you.
So on to question number 3, submitted by Half Arabs Rule on Twitter. And Half Arabs do rule. I actually learned to ride on Arabs when I was 9 years old. I know. So they would like to know, horse sleep habits. Are there any unusual patterns that should cause concern, like not laying down enough, sleep position? My pony lays on her back sometimes. I've never seen that before. Neither have I. Please send us a photo.
I've not seen that either.
It's very curious about that. And what can you do to help encourage better sleep habits?
Well, I'm going to go back to the lay on the back.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Foals will lay on their back. We call it dorsal recumbency when they have gastric ulcers. That's a very specific clinical sign and a very specific condition. But I've not seen or heard of an adult horse laying on their back. If that's normal for her horse, like the one we just talked about, fine. But if that's only something that happens when there's a problem.
So if it's happening here and there.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. Otherwise, back to normal horses' sleep habits. You probably heard the whole thing about horses sleep standing up because they have a stay apparatus in their hind legs that let them doze while standing. And the key word there is doze. Horses can lightly sleep, sort of in a half alert, half asleep manner, but that's not how they get full sleep. And horses do have to get full sleep. Now, not as much as us. They only need like 3 to 4 hours of sleep a day and only 30 minutes of the REM, the rapid eye movement.
Wow.
And they can actually go a while. Like, you know, maybe you don't know, I know, if you lose sleep, in a day or two, as quickly as a day or two, you begin to feel the effects of it in your concentration, your focus. And
I feel it in one day.
Okay, right. Horses, it could take like 7, 10, 14 days before you start to see. And what you'll see is when it's quiet and they're feeling comfortable and safe, they'll buckle their knee and collapse and maybe fall. And people go, oh, he's narcoleptic. That's probably not. It's probably sleep deprivation, and what you're seeing is a sleep attack.
A sleep attack?
A sleep attack. It's a kind of an aggressive word for when things are calm, they just are like, I'll just fall asleep. Sleep comes on them, and they can't help it.
And that's from like consistently having poor sleep habits,
yeah,
not
for
just
example,
like a one bad night.
Dr. Joe Bertone is who I consider the expert on horse sleep habits, and he shares a story of a 4-H horse pony that went to the county fairgrounds for their July, August county fair, and after a couple days began to have these sleep attacks. Well, they didn't know what was going on, so they called the vet. They're like, oh, something's terribly wrong. I mean, he's got some neurologic problem, right? And one of the questions he asked is, he asked a couple of questions. He asked, have you seen this horse roll lately? Or have you seen shavings on his back? So we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
Has anything changed in its social dynamics, like in the herd? And then how is the environment noise-wise? Are there any new disturbances? Well, it turns out this poor horse was getting work during the day and not having a normal routine like shown in the morning and shown in the afternoon, and braiding and bathing and all that. And then at night, every night at 10 o'clock, they had fireworks. And then, you know, at showgrounds, they'll leave the lights on in the barn all night long. He hadn't slept since he had been there. And it was just catching up with him. And they said when they got home, he slept for like 2 days straight, flat out, and then was his normal self again.
It's actually so funny they mentioned that. So for the showgrounds is like keeping the lights on all the time. I think people forget that. And one of our sponsor buyers, Deanna Searles, what she says, because when they go to Congress and they're there for like a month, so what she does is she'll get like a fly mask and she'll put it on her horses at night to kind of help block some of the light for them.
And maybe even like ear pom-poms or something.
Poor guy, the fireworks going off every day, working all day.
Yeah. And then, you know, people come in like at 3 and 4 a.m. to braid. So they may have just laid down to sleep, and then the lights are on again, and it's noisy. So shows are rough. What else? What other questions do you have? Sleep habits, unusual patterns.
How can you encourage better
sleep
sleep habits?
How to encourage. So I wrote down what's required for a horse to sleep. Horses need to feel comfortable that they can lay down flat out and sleep, because they're susceptible then to a predator, and they cannot get up fast and take off. If they're sleeping standing up, just dozing and not really sleeping, deep sleep or REM, they can quickly go. But when they're laid flat out, they're pretty susceptible.
They're vulnerable, yeah.
Yeah, they're very vulnerable. So they require a guard horse. And mares are very good at this. So if you notice, this is your observation, in a herd, there'll be some laying down and some standing, right?
Yep.
Watching over them, and they take turns. But you'll never see the entire herd laying flat out, because somebody has to be on guard for the predators.
They got to sign for times of who's on watch, who's
shifts.
sleeping.
Exactly. So that's one thing. You got to make sure, like, there's a story of a horse that was in a herd, and then he got purchased and he was the only horse in a place. Well, he's like, I'm not laying down. I'm the only one. Then they come, they're going to get me, right? So they got another horse, a mini, and it was fine.
So the mini was his guard horse, so he could take it out.
Horse, I know. So let's see what else. The environment we talked about. It has to be, you know, not disruptive and usual and same. If it's disruptive, but the horse is used to it, then that's probably fine. The big one is, and this one is probably the one that gets missed the most. The horse has to be able to get down and get back up. So if you have an older horse maybe, or a horse that's unsound, and that's why the question of, have you seen them roll lately, or have you seen shavings on their back? If they're not getting down and getting up, they can't sleep.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because the older ones, they are maybe a little bit nervous if they do, they can't get back up, so they just
quickly. Yeah. Or just they're so stiff that their hocks and stifles and fetlocks, they don't bend anymore. You've seen horses lay down. They don't look tremendously agile. So these older horses that might have, you know, fused hocks or something, they can't do it.
If you give them like a bigger stall, will that help them?
That'll help. More bedding. There's a research study that says thicker bedding, horses will sleep longer, so that's good. But also, this is a time to call your vet, because they could come out and diagnose an unsoundness maybe, and then prescribe something that will give them some relief, and talk to you about, let's develop a plan that will help your horse be more comfortable overall.
Well, that's awesome. These are some great tips there, and some I might take just for my own personal use. But do send us a picture of your pony sleeping on his back, because I do want to see that for sure.
Yeah.
So on to question number 4, which is submitted by Emma on the SmartPak form. And Emma wants to know, does blanketing impede winter coat growth? That's
a cool question, and we're in winter now, so it's very appropriate, although it's too late to do anything, but for next winter. The primary thing that influences coat growth is the light, right, in the photo period. And so as daylight gets shorter, then that's the signal to the coat to grow and the winter coat to grow. And we have these things, the summer and the winter solstice, and then the spring and the fall equinox. And they're important because the summer solstice happens in June, is the longest day of the year. Yes. And so after that, the days begin to get shorter, and then my horse right away starts throwing away his summer coat and building the winter coat. And you don't see the winter coat till it takes about 2 months or so after the signal is received in the body for the first hairs to sort of poke through the skin. But about September, about the fall equinox, my horse is looking pretty good, because he got rid of his bleached out summer coat, and he has this brand new really dark, rich bay winter coat. But then we have some warm days in September and October, and he's like, whew, toasty. But then the same thing happens in the winter solstice, so the shortest day of the year, the end of December. Then the days begin to get longer,
Yes.
and then the horses start shedding their winter coat, which is more noticeable because it's longer, there's more hairs. And then in about 2 months, their summer hairs are peeking through, and then that's the spring equinox, and then the cycle begins again. So her question was blanketing. So
yes.
if photo period is the trigger, blanketing would be the modifier.
Okay.
So it is possible to begin putting blankets on your horses when the temperature begins to decrease.
Yes.
Like it depends where you are too. So it could be 60, it could be 50, it could be 40, it depends where you are. And say to the horse's body, I know you've been signaled to change coats from summer to winter, but don't put your full winter down thing on. Just put your light winter jacket on. That's what the blanket is trying to tell them. And to some extent, that is possible.
Okay.
If you're diligent in having them wear the blanket. It's tough though, because the nights are going to be cool, but the days are going to be warm,
yes.
and you don't want your horse to sweat and overheat in the blanket. So if you want to try to impede the growth, you have to be, it takes a little effort. And so for some people, they just let the winter coat grow and then clip.
Yeah. So the blanket is basically going to add a layer so the horse doesn't have to grow as much coat to keep themselves warm. It
fools or tricks the body into thinking you're in a warmer climate. You're in the southern belt, and it's not Minnesota. So that's all. But the photo period trigger, unless you artificial light, which a lot of people do for breeding purposes, you're not going to affect that trigger. It's happening. That's the on-off switch. The blanketing to not have as thick of a winter coat is more of a modifier.
Okay.
Yeah, the dimmer switch. I just thought of that.
And it's starting around the time when the temperature starts to drop down a little bit.
Yeah, and again,
too early
right. It depends on your area, because I know certain people like 60. Woo,
that's
and we were like 60. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, on to question number 5, which was submitted by Haley on the SmartPak forum. And Haley wants to know, what is the best way to compost manure? Things that can and can't go in the manure pile, average time, best bedding conducive to composting.
A lot of questions.
Lots of questions in there.
And I and most vets are in no way experts on composting. However,
that's not what you got your degree in.
Not my poop degree, but my barn owner did this and did it really well, and so I do have some firsthand knowledge about it.
Okay.
But I mostly learned things to answer this question because I wanted to do it accurately.
Love it.
Yeah. There are some great resources, and I know I've shared these before, but your county extension offices. One that I found that was really good was Washington State University. I don't know how to say this. Whatcom County.
Yeah.
If you all live there, you know.
That's how I see it.
Whatcom County. We'll put it up on the screen. Cooperative Extension has detailed not just how to do it and answers all your questions, but even like bin designs. Because one of the first things you have to decide is after location, is am I just going to make piles of poop, or am I going to put them in bins, which is a bit neater, and I think it will give you a better quality product at the end, and also maybe be faster, because when you have it in a bin, it's not just loose and you can turn it and it stays in a bin. Yeah, and then you have there's a 3-bin method that's described, and so the first bin is when you put your fresh stuff.
Okay.
And then when it's full, you move it with the front end tractor loader. So you have to have some equipment to the second bin where now it does the hot composting.
Okay.
It's heat and water and air and then the substrate, the manure and whatever bedding is in there and whatever else you put in, is what gives the microorganisms in there all the resources they need to then break this down. And then the third bin is where you put it to finish or cure, and then it's ready to be sold or used or whatever.
So can you just get back to the location? What things are we considering where to put it?
Well, you wouldn't put it buy a home.
Unless it's a neighbor you don't like.
Right. You'd want to put it where the runoff, because you're supposed to cover your bins so it doesn't get rain on or dried out from the sun. But there's going to be some runoff, and you don't want the runoff to be into your barn or a water source or your arena or the horses' pasture stuff. You want to put it in a place, on concrete's great, because if you have to come in and turn it, you want it to be on a footing, a surface that is, you can do that readily.
So you're not like just grabbing the dirt from underneath? Or,
yeah, you're not ruining your land. So, and then you have to consider, you know, wind and odor and things. Although a compost pile shouldn't have a strong smell, and if it does, then something is not right. Yeah, so that's my tip of the week.
That's a little pro tip inside of it there.
So we talked about keeping it covered.
Yep.
You have to get air into the pile because the microorganisms, the bacteria, will need oxygen to break down these nutrients, and you can do that in a number of ways. What we did was we took PVC pipe and we put holes in it, along it, and then we put those in first, and then we piled manure over it. So there was like the manure around a pipe. And then you can, if it's a, it's almost, and then if it's a bigger pile, the ideal size pile is like what these bins are described as 8 foot by 8 foot square and 4 foot tall. That's like the ideal size.
Yeah.
Because bigger than that, then air can't get to all of the.
Got it.
Yeah.
So that's what's got, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, but you still might, even with the PVC pipe in there, need to turn it once in a while.
Is that challenging with the PVC pipe in there, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so some places, if it's a bigger outfit, like it depends. You have to figure out how many horses you have, how much manure they make a day, 50 pounds. Yeah, 9 ton a year. And if you can even...
That'll be a trivia question coming your way at some point,
do
I'm sure.
this on your property.
Yeah.
Right? So some places, there's a new study out now that says windrowing is a better way to do a large-scale compost operation. Do you know what windrow is?
What is?
You know when they harvest hay, they cut hay, they lay it to dry just in piles, like in rows down the field. Okay, so the same thing with manure.
Oh.
You can put piles of rows of manure, and then you have to turn it. But this
Do you
is
have to keep it covered?
You can't.
Okay,
no,
that's
it's
how I
too
was
big.
like,
right.
okay.
Right. This is a large-scale operation.
Yeah.
So the first thing for you is figure out if it's even feasible based on how many horses you have, how much space you have, how much time you have, all that. I want to get into, well, she has things that can and can't go in.
Correct. Yep.
You can't put regular garbage. This is not a garbage pile, right?
Yeah.
So you can't put metal, you can't put plastic, you can't put like baling twine, baling wire. Like people can't throw wrappers, and this is not garbage. So I don't know if you need signs or if you're the only person there, but it is not a garbage pile. She asked about time also.
Correct, yep.
So that size that I gave you, that bin size, that 8 by 8 by 4, it can take like 3 months to get to the bin to the hot composting.
So from the first bin to the second bin.
And then to the second bin to the third bin takes like another 3 months. So 6 months in total for fresh manure to be ready to be used.
Wow, okay, so that's a little bit of time.
On that size. And then as far as what kind of bedding, it's important to have the carbon to nitrogen ratio 25 or 30 to 1.
Okay.
Okay. What provides you with nitrogen is the manure, vegetable waste, produce, weeds, fresh leaves, grass clippings, plants. What provides you with carbon are the dried materials, especially your beddings, your straw, your wood chips, your wood shavings, dry leaves. And you have to, like horse manure is almost ideal, it's 15 to 1. Carbon to
Okay, so you're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, so, but you should add some things that are a little bit higher to bring it into that 25 to 30. So you could add some dry leaves. Straw would be excellent. Straw would be an excellent bedding. What would not be a great bedding? Wood chips. The ratio of carbon to nitrogen, 700 to 1. Because the wood chips have lignin in them as a component of the plant, the wood. And the microbes cannot break that down. And so you're going to have lower quality compost, and it's going to take a long time to break down. So straw, I think, is our best bet.
That sounds better than that 700 to 1.
Yeah. So I would do some reading about this and make sure it's appropriate for you and your situation.
What does your barn use the compost with after? What do you guys do with it?
I think people come and get it.
Nice.
Yeah, because we only had 3 horses. We have 4 now, and a 3-bin system. So there's one 8x8x4 bin that people can get compost from.
In our next video, Lydia will show you how to build a compost pile.
No, she does a great job.
Don't you love that commit you to all these things?
Oh.
So many great videos coming up. Well, hopefully that helps you out. And if you definitely make a compost pile, send us the pictures of it. We'd love to see what you guys set up there.
Send us the compost.
Maybe just the bins outside of the
Bin
bins.
bin 3.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for submitting your questions. Those are some really great ones this month. Keep asking questions so we have them for our next episode in March. Ask your questions on anytime on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the SmartPak blog, and our forum at smartpak.com/askthevetquestions. Just make sure you use hashtag #AskTheVetVideo. And if your question was answered in this video or one of our previous ones, make sure to reach out to our customer care team at customercare@smartpak.com so you can claim your SmartPak gift card. So until next time, make sure to subscribe and have a great ride.